Happy summer, everybody. Welcome to Revival Town Podcast. I'm Chuck Tate. That's Andy King.
Oh, this heat is getting to you.
Oh, man. It's here.
It's here. I think tomorrow it's going to be 96
Wow.
in Illinois, which, if you know, there's a bit of humidity with that. So
yeah.
So you like the summer, though, don't you?
I like the summer. It's time to get the kayaks out, you know?
Oh, we haven't done it yet.
No.
We need to document it.
Yeah.
So people can see it.
Let's do it.
Oh, man. Now, we recently were together just this last weekend.
Last weekend, we celebrated 25 years of Rock Church. We took the podcast on the road.
Oh, man.
So that was the second time that we've done this, but the first time where we set everything up and we did the podcast just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But we did it in front of a few hundred people.
Yeah, it was like, I didn't know if some of the things would come across, you know, like the people clapping, cheering, but it did.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It was a special night. Doing the podcast made it extra special. Doing the podcast in front of all those people made it the best. It was just great.
It was fun. We were able to ask you a few questions about everything from being embarrassed. Do you want to share that one? I know we shared it on the podcast last week, but if people weren't listening, you talked about how there was someone in your church and you were calling her a name.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to just go into that?
All right.
Yeah,
so there's this older woman who attends our church.
She still does?
She still attends.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, post-COVID, not as much.
Right.
And, you know, she's been through a lot. And I always called her Betty. And one day in staff meeting, I was talking to our office manager about her one day in the office. And because this woman, Betty, would always comment on my sermon. Anytime she was at church, she would always find me in the lobby, comment on the sermon, and then ask me to pray with her.
Yep.
And I would always just talk with her and always pray with her. And I was talking about her, and our office manager, Catherine, said, you know, she goes, who are you talking about? I said, I'm talking about Betty. She goes, who? I said, Betty. She said, I don't think her name's Betty. I'm like, what? I said, it better be Betty, because I've been calling her Betty for 2 years. 2 years, Andy. So she goes, well, if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, her name is not Betty. I said, well, you know, we'll settle this Sunday. That Sunday.
Yeah.
Here she comes. She's a sweet old lady. She came up to me and she said, hey, Pastor, I really like the message. And, you know, she's just going on. And she said, you know, then can you pray with me? And I said, sure. I said, you know what, before I pray, Betty, I just need to ask you something. I said, your name is Betty. I said, I pray for you. I talk to you every week, like last 2 years. I pray for you regularly on Sunday. Your name's Betty, right? She looked at me and sighed and goes, no, it's Donna. I mean, I wasn't even close. Right? It wasn't like, yeah, my name is Shelly. My name is Debbie. No, Donna. Donna, Betty, not even close. Oh. Now, what I didn't share was this. There's another woman in our church, almost lost her son in a motorcycle accident. And the day I went to the hospital to pray for her son, they said he wasn't going to make it. Called in the family. I went in and prayed. And then I came back in the room to meet with all the family. And she came up to me and I went up to her and I just said, hey, I just want you to know I went into the room, just prayed for Tim. Yeah. And she said, well, I heard even Pastor Chuck was here to pray for him. And I looked at her and I said, you know, I'm Chuck, right? She goes, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Of course I didn't. And she was all flustered, but she's older too. Yeah. And she almost lost her son, family's gathering. She was just, I said, it's okay. And he did make it, by the way. He still attends our church, which is amazing. So does she. Well, she was really down on herself about this, really embarrassed that she said that to me. So one day in the lobby, she was with Donna. And she brought it up again to me, and I said, you know what? I'm going to settle. I'm going to help you. I'm going to make you feel better right now. And I told her the story about Betty/Donna. And here's what Donna said to me. She goes, you know, Pastor, I know when we get to heaven, we're going to get a new name. And I just know mine's Betty.
Oh, that's funny. That's good. That's good. Well, talking about stories and things that have happened to you, many years ago, a lot of people may not know this. You won a contest for a book proposal that now has become your bestseller because it's the only seller.
It's the only seller. Yeah, no, what's really cool is Esther Fedorkevich is a literary agent who represents me, but she represents a lot of people.
Serious people. Yeah. Not that you're not serious.
Right. No, a lot of well-known people. Dude Perfect.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow. Yeah. She agented in a couple books for Stephen Furtick. I mean, she's Mark
Judah
Patterson.
Smith.
Yeah. You can just go on and on and on. Lisa Turkers. So many different people that she's produced 80 New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah. That's some.
Right. So this is a great podcast today for anyone who is an aspiring writer, because one thing that Esther always shares is she believes everybody has a book inside of them.
Yeah.
In fact, 95% of people believe that they could write a book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But a very small percentage actually do the work to make it happen. Today, Esther's going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah. So why don't you sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation with our friend Esther.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's EDIFI.app.
All right, everyone, it's time for another conversation on Revival Town Podcast. Our guest today is a returning guest. Esther Fedorkevich is a literary and entertainment agent and the founder of The Fed Agency. With over 80 New York Times bestsellers on her list and 20 years in the industry, she is known for representing faith-based authors, athletes, influencers, politicians, and business people to help them share their inspirational and hope-filled stories with the world. And today, she's going to tell you how you can share your story. Esther, welcome back to Revival Town.
Hi, it's great to be here. Hi, Chuck. Hi, Andy.
Hi, how are you doing?
So good to see
Thanks for having
you.
me back.
Oh, no problem. I know you've been pretty busy. I follow you on social media, and it feels like every other day there is someone new that you are representing, making sure that their book is getting out to the world. And so it seems like in your world, it's been pretty busy lately.
It's very, very busy. We're in our busy season, and it'll slow down probably like July, like next month. It slows for like a month. We gotta, because everyone's on vacation. But then it gets busy again.
Right. Well, just a few weeks ago, you were on the set of Jimmy Fallon, and he was promoting one of the books of your authors. That it was just so cool. It's so fun to watch all the places you go and the things that you get to do and all the stories you get to put into the world.
Chuck, I'm so crazy. I'm there with my author, right, Paula Ferris, and they're like, there's Jimmy Fallon. You know, when you go on, there's other people there, and so I'm like, I'm just going to go up to him and ask him to hold her book, right, and then say something, and don't tell him what to say, just say something, and he did, and we posted it, and we went viral. It's just been so. I'm not scared to go up to anyone.
You're fearless. I will say that, and you know what? I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but Andy, did you know Esther was an All-American, a McDonald's All-American basketball player?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That blows my mind.
Back in the day, I was a really good baller, and like in my mind, I'm still a good basketball player. But when I play with my son, my body just doesn't move the way it used to.
Oh, believe me, I used to play soccer pretty intensely, and over this last winter, my boys were home. They live in LA, and they came home. We went and played indoor soccer, and I think I made it to about 20 minutes. and I was crawling. I could not move at all. So I know exactly what you mean.
Everything hurts,
Oh,
right? Like
yeah.
when you get older, it's just like, man, I can't. But in my mind, I can do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly how I am when I'm playing ball in our driveway with my son, and we lower the hoop, and so he loves to dunk, and oh my goodness, I can hardly walk afterward. I'm like, I played in high school, and now, man, I'm just, the older we get, the harder it is. But I just think that's fascinating. So you're a basketball fan, and even your daughter published a video of you coaching recently, and that went viral on TikTok.
Yeah, so we were at a game for my nephew, and there was no coach for a team, and it was like a YMCA league, right? So there was no coach, and so they were going to have to forfeit the game, and so they said, does anyone know basketball or can coach? So I just stepped up and coached, and I'm like, I'm all in. It's like all or nothing. Like, it's not like just sit there. And most of these kids never played basketball before. So I have to tell them like what hoop they're going to go shoot at. Right. And then but it was what's offense, what's defense. But it was fun. I stepped up, and I didn't know my daughter did that, and she posted it. And we had like over 2 million views, and Sports Center picked it up, and ESPN everyone picked it up, because they're like, here's a mom that just, stepped in, to save the day. So it was fun.
I did hear of a story exactly like this, but it was David Beckham, and his kids' coach didn't show up. And so they're like, Dave Beckham, you have got to step up for your kids. And could you imagine being on the other team like, wait a minute, Dave Beckham is now coaching that kid's team. This is not fair.
That's so cool, right? Like that he did that, and then he just stepped in. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I love how fearless you are. I mean, whether it's stepping in to coach a team, or whether it's approaching Jimmy Fallon.
Or approaching Chuck Tate for a book. I mean, you talk about fearless. What?
No, you know what? Now, hey, check this out. Before I ever even submitted my proposal into the contest, I was at the previous conference where they had just given a book deal to Sherry Lowe. If you remember, back in that was like 2013, I believe, at the Rewrite Conference that you were hosting. And I approached you, and I don't know if you remember that moment, but I was scared to death. But I still walked up and shared my concept. I had already rehearsed my elevator pitch, and the rest is history.
I actually do remember that, and I said, well, we'll have a contest. We were doing Rewrite every 2 years, I think. So the one new one was in 2015, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
And so I was like, hey, submit it to the contest. And I gave you a deadline, right? And you're like, I'm going to do it. And you had that in your mind, and you're like, I'm going to submit it. So it was awesome.
Now, what we want to do today, because it lines up with this, because you were telling Chuck just recently about how many people went in for that contest. And so what we thought we would do today, before you answer that question, is just really going through the process with you both as an author, and being able to really come into where you not only start, but then the concept. How do you then take it through to then get it into the hands of someone like yourself, Esther? So we're going to do that today. But you shared a story with Chuck just a few weeks back about actually how many people applied for that contest. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So I went to Tyndale House Publishers, and I said, hey, I want to do a contest for first-time authors to get a book. And, we'll see all these submissions, and they would get a book deal with an advance and everything from a big publisher. And so Tyndale said, yes, we'll support you, Esther, in this. Let's do this. And so we opened it up, and when you do a free contest, that everybody can submit, but we had requirements that you had to submit. Like you couldn't just do a halfway proposal, or chapter. Do you remember that, Chuck? You had all these rules of things that needed to be submitted to be officially submitted.
Right. There was a template on the website, and you had to follow.
We put all that together. Because I'm like guys, I love the underdog, and I'm like, I love story, and I love seeing people's dreams come true, right? And helping them get that. And what happens is the more successful you get, or as you get bigger as a literary agent, a lot of the smaller first-time authors, you just don't have the time for. So this was like my one way to hey, I could help someone grow a first-time author and kind of give back. So we ran this contest, and we were thinking, honestly, that we'd get 50 people to submit. We got 1,500 submissions. And so a lot of them were really good. A lot of them were not that great, but we had over 1,500 submissions. We went through it, and the Fed agency was not prepared for this kind of work, right? We were like thinking 50, we can handle it with our staff here. And we're like, oh no, right? What are we going to do? So we had teams set up to narrow it down to the top 100, right? Before I got to see it.
Because you couldn't just like, we've got 1,000, but let's just scan through 20, because this is someone's work that they've poured themselves into. You want to honor them for what they'd sent in as well.
Yes, you can't just like kind of breeze through or speed read. You really had to like dive in. So we had a team of 10 different people that were reading. We just split them up, right? The submissions, and they were just going through them, reading them. And it would take like, they probably could do 3 or 4 in a day. So that just shows you like they're spending a couple hours on each proposal. And then they're writing their feedback, no, good, maybes. I think we had like, yes, maybe, let Esther see this one, maybe, and then they got it down to 100, right? Then at the 100, an author of mine, George Barna, an author of mine, Mark Batterson, and me, and I think there was one other person in there that was reviewing. We took the top 100 and we all read all 100, right? So to read 100, and then the interesting thing is, and we narrowed it down to our top 10. The really interesting thing is our top 10, George, Mark, and me, were all the same. Tell me that's not crazy.
Wow, that's amazing.
All of our top 10 were the exact same 10.
Wow.
That's
fascinating.
So that shows like, I'm like, wow, I'm pretty smart if I'm saying the same thing George and Mark says.
Yeah.
So we got our top 10, and then it was really hard to narrow it, right? So together we just, no, like it was hard to say no because they were all good, right? It was really, really hard.
Can I ask you a question? Is this like the full book, or like when they came in, what would proposal? So what is that? What for those listening, what would a proposal look like?
So a book proposal, and we can actually, what would be fun, Chuck, is if you would put that proposal like as an attachment so people can see what you submitted in a proposal. If you can find that old proposal and say like, so it has a snapshot, an overview, which a snapshot is like a couple sentences of what the book's about. And then an overview, which is 1 to 2 pages about what the book's about. And then it goes into your chapter outline. So you can see the chapter outline of what you're going to do in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then it also has like marketing and publicity, a bio of the author, marketing and publicity, like what's this book about? Who's this? And then the author, what's your platform to launch this book?
Right.
So as you look, and then it has a sample chapter. That was really important. So you're not reading a full book when you look at a proposal, but you're looking at these elements of idea, concept, writing was really important to it has to be good writing, right? We saw a lot of really great ideas, but the writing was poor. So that's where if the writing was poor, it went out. And then we saw people that had really big platforms, but the idea wasn't right. So you're just trying to like, who has like the trifecta, the great writing, the great idea, right? And then great platform.
Sure.
So we narrowed it down to the top 10. And then we went through, and it was really hard. And it was interesting when it all came back of us at the top 10, all 3 of us said Chuck Tate.
Oh,
wow.
Chuck Tate. George Barna said Chuck Tate. I mean, come on.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So all like, it was so hard. And there was another author in the mix that we kind of all had too. So it was really hard, but all 3 of us had you, Chuck. So that's what got it to the end. And so when you were asked, Andy, about a book proposal, when someone wants to write a book, so they say 95% of people say in their lifetime they want to write a book, of Americans. I don't know if you heard that. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to write a book one day. But they don't do it, right? They just, very few people actually do the work because it's so much work to actually write the book. But 95% of Americans think their story's worth telling. So Chuck, even in 2013, when we met Chuck, you knew you had to do it. But then you like really had a goal because you knew this contest was coming. And a book proposal, when we show you the template, you'll see it's a lot of work just to do a book proposal, but it really is kind of like your outline for your book before you start writing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like your roadmap, right? It's like we're going to get here, here, and here. the in between, we're gonna flesh that out over the next few months. But at least there's a roadmap to get to the end.
Yes, and Andy, and so that also is what agents. So if you are looking for a literary agent, that's what we look at when we acquire someone. If we say, okay, yeah, we're going to sign you as an author of ours, is we look at that book proposal. Okay. We look at the concept, we look at their platform, and if we like it, then we set up a call with that authors. So a lot of like first-time authors or authors trying to get an agent, that's what they do. They're sending their book proposal to a ton of agents to say, is anybody interested or likes me or likes this idea?
Wow. So Esther, do you have a system in place now where you have a team of people that will weed through certain proposals and then just bring so many to you? Or do you?
So we right now, I mean, you have to be, we get over 1,000 submissions a month, right? So that's a lot of submissions as an agency. And we ask that the ones that come to me is if they're referred by one of my clients. So if one of my clients has looked at it and said, we love this, you should talk to my agent, that comes to the top of our list. There's a lot of ones, I mean, people don't even research agents sometimes. Like, they don't even make sense for me to acquire at all. Like, they're so against like everything that I represent. And so I'm like, why? And you can tell they're just going through a list from Publishers Marketplace of literary agents and just sending them out to everybody. Yeah. Right. They're not really researching the agent. So I would say when you're looking for a literary agent, research that agent and find who's the agent for the books that you love. Right. Because then you're probably going to have a good chance with that agent that they're going to like you. So if you love Brene Brown and, Jordan Peterson, and find who's their agent, right? If you love, Lisa Turkhurst and, Lisa Bevere and, I don't know, Paula Ferris, right? Like we were talking about, then you find out who their agent is, and then you go submit that to them. And I think you have a better chance of connecting. So like kind of, on our side, when we were talking about Mark Batterson, we all loved your proposal. It fit it fit me, what I acquired. It fit what Tyndale liked. Yeah. And it fit what, it fit, and I think that's what you're trying to do as an agent and author is you're trying to say, are you guys a right fit for each other?
And Mark Batterson's my favorite author. So I was already kind of connected. I already read his books, loved his books, liked that style, felt like.
It's a lot like speakers. Like if obviously Chuck and I preach and speak, but there's other speakers that we watch that they influence not our accents or things like that, especially when you're English, but unless it's an English guy I'm listening to, but just the way they present, the way they talk, that it rubs off. And it's the same with authors. That's what you're saying, right, Chuck?
Sure. And even record labels, obviously there's a lot of similarities with that as well. But yeah, I was so, and really it's a God thing, because a good friend of mine who had self-published a book is the one who invited me to rewrite in 2013. And he knew that I had this dream on the inside of my heart. And I just love the fact that he pushed me, and it worked out for me to go. And then I approached you, and then I still had to do the work, right? Like Mark Batterson always says, we got to pray like it depends on God, but work like it depends on you. And when we do that, then good things happen.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. And the thing is, you came when I think Paul Young, right? Paul Young was the keynote.
You know what? I was thinking it was Mark was the keynote.
Well, Mark, we had two. I thought it was Paul Young who wrote The Shack, right? And then we also had Ken Blanchard there. It was pretty cool because when you with Paul Young, what I loved was his story is like he self-published it just for his kids, Yeah. And he printed it at Kinko's, and then they kept passing it around and reprinting more. And so if you hear that story, if he could do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Can do it.
And I always, and again, I don't want to lose any listeners here, but I always think of J.K. Rowling, who was turned down countless times. Like people were like, this is not going to go anywhere. And she finally got that break way down the line, like many people. And now she's obviously had a good life from it.
So Andy, I say this sometimes when I do like my publishing talk, but do you know, like I think about this as me as an agent, and I want, if there's authors or people that want to write a book, I think of it from the author's perspective too. So let's say I was C.S. Lewis's agent, okay? Probably one everybody loves, like 90% of Christians would say it's their favorite author. Yeah. Well, so C.S. Lewis got rejected over 600 times before he got his first book deal. Wow. When I think about that, I say to myself as an agent, would I have gone 600 rounds with C.S. Lewis? Would I believe in him that much that I would have, like, I hope I wouldn't quit at $5.99, you know?
Yeah,
I hope. Wow. So when you think about that it's why it's so important to find a right match that the agent really believes in you. And then also an author that really believes that they have to do this no matter what.
Yeah.
And so imagine C.S. Lewis stopped at 599.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like, and back then you have to like write your queries there was no internet, you know, so everything and then he just kept believing, he knew that somebody one day would take his writing. Yeah. So I love that perspective of it takes diligence, belief in yourself, and persistence. And I think I always think so many people quit right before their miracle is ready to happen.
Yeah. Right. And I almost did. So I believe I was the very last person to even get my entry in. I barely made the deadline. And the only reason
I can't, that seems really crazy to me. You being late?
Well, here's what happened. I went on you can't make this up, but I went on some people had like a condo. They invited us it was around Christmas time. And we were in fact, Christmas, Wisconsin. I think Christmas Mountain. I don't know. But I was in a cabin writing, trying to knock out the deadline. And I probably wouldn't have done it if I wouldn't have announced to our congregation back then, like, hey, pray for me. I'm going to sit, you know, because everybody knew 41 Will Come was part of me and my life's message. And I preached it so many times. And so I just told them I was going to finally submit it. And had I not said that publicly, I probably in my mind would have just said, you know what, I'll submit it next time. And there wasn't a next time. So it turned out to be a God thing. So I don't know who's listening right now who has a dream on the inside, a book inside them. You got to do the work and follow through.
Yeah.
So are you a procrastinator, Chuck?
I have been. I've gotten much better. I've gotten a lot more diligent throughout the years. And, but I can, you know, sometimes I'm just overextended, too busy. Everybody's busy, running around doing a lot of different things. But I've gotten much, much better.
I'm glad you did it because it's kind of like the one thing you know you're supposed to do that's also the scariest, but you feel it. It's like the thing that you know you have to do, but you're scared to like actually show the world that. It's scary to put your story out when it's not perfect.
Right. Yeah, because it's not finished yet, right? That the proposal is not the finished project.
It's not the manuscript.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, Esther. What are some of the things that you are looking for? But let me rephrase it. What are the things that when a proposal comes in, you're like, this is just not going to fly? Like, it just doesn't feel right. What are some of the things that turn you off a proposal?
Great question. Well, we look for three things, okay? I think most agents in the world would agree with me. So there's three things that are the crucial in the proposal. The idea, right? So the concept, is it new? Is it fresh? Is it a strong felt need that that's a conversation that's happening today? Number two, the writing. Is it good writing? Can they write? You know, and a lot of times these proposals come in that they're going to hire a ghostwriter. So 50% of books is somebody who's an influencer or has a story, but they're not right. Like, I'm not a writer. I can't write, you know? And so if I was doing a book, I would hire a ghostwriter to let me talk and then let them write my words on the page. So there's the writing, there's the concept, and then number three is platform. Now, the sad thing is I say you have to have two of three of those to get a deal. Okay. Chuck, what do you think the two hardest ones, if you had, of the three to sell?
Say that again. The two. I mean, platform is, I think, the hardest because I think there's probably been a lot of great concepts with pretty good writing that have landed on your desk. Yes. But with zero platform, it's probably hard for a publisher to say, we'll take a chance on this.
Yeah. So if someone has a great concept and they have they're great writers, right? But they don't have any platform. That's the hardest thing for an agent to sell because what a publisher looks for, and this is the reality of the business, is the first thing they look in a proposal is they go to your marketing and publicity and see your platform. Yeah. They don't even read the idea. They don't even look at how beautiful I make the proposal or the title of the book, or they go right to platform. And so if somebody comes in with all three, they're a winner. That's a yes for us. If they have a great idea, the great writing, and their platform's great, it's a yes, as an agency, and we're fighting to acquire that author. If someone comes in with a big platform, but they don't have a good idea and they don't have good writing, we can help them on the other two things because they have a huge platform. Right. So we can help them come up with what the right idea is. Sure. We can help them. So when these guys named Dude Perfect, I don't know if you're familiar with Dude Perfect. Sure.
My son worships
80 million subscribers on YouTube, right? And I'm their literary agent. And so I'm not what would be the best book for Dude Perfect to do if they have 80 million subscribers? So the other two things I can work with. I can come up with an amazing idea that I think all their fans and their audience would buy. And then I can put them with a really great writer to put it together. So it's real easy when not easy, but I would say when someone comes in with a huge platform to then figure out what the idea is, right? And then hook them up with a great writer. The hard part is and my heart's desire is when someone's an amazing writer like you, Chuck, and it's so good, the writing's so good, and you're trying to figure out how do you grow that platform for them? Because that's what's going to stop publishers from actually signing that author, because the publishing business, they're all cynical. They can tell you 100 reasons why this doesn't work or that doesn't work, and I'm the most positive person around. So I'm I can find that one that did really well and try to stick them on that idea. But yeah, so that's Andy, to answer your question. It's platform. The sad thing is, and I don't want to discourage people, but that's what you have to grow as an author. Or if you want to be an author, is really figuring out how to grow your platform. And sometimes though, a book does that for you. Sure. You're just an amazing writer and people love the writing and it gets a review and, Publishers Weekly, or it starts getting, people are picking it up, and then it's all word of mouth. So there's a chance every scenario you look at, it's just really hard when an author comes in and they don't have a platform for us to really figure out how are we going to convince a publisher that they're going to sell books.
Sure. Right. And I think, I've met people and that they want a traditional publisher, but then they'll say, I'm not really into social media. And I've tried to explain to people, you have to be intentional about this. You have to put together, part of your proposal is going to be a marketing strategy and a marketing plan, all these ideas. And so if you want to self-publish, then that's okay. Right. But even then, if you're going to self-publish, you should still desire, there's a lot of people that they don't like I don't want to, to be intentional about it. It looks self-serving, but no, if you believe in your story, and if you believe that your book is going to help one person, then we have to be willing to build our platform in order to get into the most hands. So
it's not just about getting a deal. It's about also, I don't care just about getting a client a deal. I care about getting that book out to as many people as possible. Right. And it's not just, I want to sell 1 million books. Right. But I want to change 1 million lives. And so you work so hard, Chuck, to write it and put it together and come up with a concept. And everyone knows that you've been talking about this and preaching it. It was in you. So it really did come across in the proposal, right? Because wasn't a fresh idea for you. Do you know what I mean? You've been preaching it, living it. So you did a really good job on your book proposal. And I always tell people the first book you do is, what if you're a pastor or what is the sermon that everyone remembers that you preach? What's the thing that everyone comes back to you, that you get the biggest response? Because that could be your book then.
Sure. That's so good. And you told me those exact words a few years ago when I came in and I pitched a second concept, and you're like, that's not it. And you told me that exact thing. I need to find out what resonates with the people. What am I preaching? And I feel like I've done that and got to meet with you here a couple months ago in Texas.
So Andy, when we had all these submissions, right? And he wins the contest. Yeah. So for listeners to know, so he wins a publishing deal, first time author. It was really this most amazing moment, right? It was that was the start of, first of all, he did the book, he wrote it, right, and then he promoted it, and now we're working on another book together, and that's kind of cool. but you had to do the hard work, Chuck. Like you had to believe in yourself. You had to do it. You had a good support system around you, right? Saying, do this, enter. But now you're a published author. Your book sold really well. And now we're working on book 2, which gets me really excited to say like, this is not like one book and then you're like a one-hit wonder, right? I think you have probably 20 books in you in your lifetime.
Yeah. Well,
are you allowed to talk about your next book idea? Are we allowed to do that, or is that like hush hush? Come on, Chuck, pitch it to me. Pitch it to me. Come on.
So guys, this is what we're shopping right now. So,
all right,
he came to Austin and shared this idea with me, and our whole team was blown away. So go.
All right. Well, we're going to unpack the story of Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus was a blind beggar sitting on the outskirts of Jericho, and he heard that Jesus would be passing by. So this was his opportunity, his chance to receive a miracle, to get a different life. So when the crowd came by, he knew Jesus was within earshot. So he cried out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. But immediately the crowd shut him down. Cancel culture, all right, way back then, told him to be quiet, to shut up. So in that moment, he could hang his head in defeat and remain a blind beggar, or he could shout louder. Well, the scripture says that he cried out all the more, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He just began to cry out to Jesus. Jesus stopped and said, bring him to me. So the same crowd, the same ones who told him to shut up, were the same ones who delivered him to his miracle. And then Jesus said 9 words that changed the trajectory of his life. And those words are, what do you want me to do for you? And he said, Rabbi, I want to see. And Jesus healed him. And then he followed Jesus. So I'm going to share the story from 3 perspectives: the blind man's perspective, the crowd's perspective, Jesus' perspective. So we got faith, fight, and freedom. Wow. So we're working with 9 words that'll change your life. What do you want me to do for you?
Whoa.
Isn't that an awesome concept, guys? So as an agent, when your author sits with you and shares something like that, you're like, oh, there's so much I could do. I want to do a devotional with this. I think it could be a whole line of products, but like, it's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Feel like Shark Tank.
Well, I couldn't do it without you, Esther. Thank you so much for believing in me and for helping me and pouring into me. And we're so grateful for all that you do. I mean, and I'm just one author. I mean, you have been responsible for so many lives that have been changed as a result of all the books that have been published. So thank you.
I say this all the time, but we get thousands of letters in, Andy and Chuck, of suicides not committed, of people coming to Christ, of marriages saved, of parents and their kids reunited. And I tell my staff and me, like, what a honor, true honor and humbling it is to get to go to work and be part of that, because we get to help our authors get their stories out. And that's why I wake up every morning and do what I do, is because I know that the authors that we represent and those stories matter and really can help people and change lives forever. So it's the funnest job ever. And like, it's a true honor. Like, it's really awesome that I get a chance to represent you, Chuck, because you are a great writer, and you have these ideas that are just like, wow, big ideas. And it's fun when you start with an author to see, like, to build them, right? And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Chuck, when we're like, wow, I can't believe you sold millions and millions of books. Like, I'll never forget the experience of the contest and you winning it. And actually all the stuff it took you to actually do it, and you were the last. Funny thing is, he was the last submission in. He literally beat it by 1 minute, I think, the deadline. And so if that's not God, guys, come on.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I know there are people listening, and I hope that through this story and through hearing your words, Esther, our prayer is that people are encouraged and inspired to get their story into the world. So can you take a moment and pray for our listeners, those that they have that dream, they've just been sitting on it?
Yeah, I would love to. Jesus, thank you for Chuck and Andy, and thank you for giving us stories, right? And helping us get our stories out. And I pray for every listener who's listening and that has that desire in their heart to write, that has a desire to share their story and to change lives, that you lead them to the right agent, you lead them to the right publisher or team or support system around them. You have given us just these amazing gifts. And I pray for Chuck and his new book that he's releasing. I pray for the listeners as they're deciding or thinking or trying to do their proposal, that you just give them favor, you give them wisdom, you give them strength, and you give them belief in themselves, that they don't quit. And then we just love you so much. And thank you for everything you've given us. You are just the best. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, how can people follow what you do social media wise? What is the best way, or website?
Thanks. Well, our website is thefedagency.com, and Fed is FEDD with 2 Ds. And then on Instagram, it's the same. I think on Twitter, on TikTok. I don't really do much on TikTok, but I'm sure my social media team is just starting all that fun stuff. And then I'm also Esther Fed on Instagram if you want to follow me personally.
Okay, great. Well, we want to wrap. I know you just said your daughter's on her way to get wisdom teeth.
I have to take my daughter, guys, to get her wisdom teeth pulled.
So man. So the big three questions everyone wants to know. Chuck, you want to start off?
You want to go first this time?
Okay. Here we go. What artist or author have you been starstruck by? Like, you hang out with a lot of really cool people, but has there been that one that's like, I can't believe I'm doing this?
Well, I kind of think Dude Perfect was that for me in the beginning, right? Because I'm like, my kids love them so much and they were like just exploding and they do all these crazy trick shots. And I'm like, I can't actually believe that I'm representing Dude Perfect and getting to work with these 5 amazing guys.
Wow. Yeah. That's
awesome.
Amazing.
All right. My question is, the NBA finals start tonight, Miami or Denver?
Okay. So I usually pick, because I'm a Spurs fan, guys. So Spurs, like crazy Spurs fan, right? But I usually pick it by if I represent anyone, right? So I was really rooting for the Celtics because I have somebody on the Celtics that I'm doing their book, and I was like, right? So I would say I like Jimmy Butler.
That's me too.
I really like Jimmy Butler. I think he's awesome. So I'm going Heat.
All right, okay. Right on.
All right, last question. You travel a lot, right? Obviously to some cool venues with these book launches. Coolest venue you've ever been within your world and what you do? Okay,
so I'm a golfer. I love to golf. So I have a 6 handicap. Really love golfing. So my clients,
you're like a rock star.
John and Lisa Bevere, they do this something called Messenger Cup, right? Which is their big nonprofit get together, and it's at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, which is like this amazing place. So I love every year that I get to go to Messenger Cup because I get to golf with my son, and it's a tournament and you win prizes, right?
Yeah.
So that's like my funnest thing I get to do every year is go to the Broadmoor.
That's cool.
Right on.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Good. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on today, Esther. And I know we're going to have you on real shortly in the next month or so with a whole different side to you. We're not going to let anything out the bag, but that is going to be an incredible time with you as well. So we just wanted to thank you for coming on today, and we will see you soon. So thank you so
Andy.
much.
Thank you, Chuck. You guys are the best.
Hey, thank you. You're the best.
Okay, whatever. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right. There you have it, everybody. The one and only Esther Fedorkevich.
I'm so glad you said her last name because I am terrible with last names.
Well, I'm terrible with first names. Yeah. We go back to the beginning of this episode. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow, that was great because you're right. I mean, we've talked about it many times on the podcast because you've written a book, but there are a lot of people who have talked about, I wish I could write a book. I wish I could do that. Well, we have given some tools today for people to at least throw it out there proposal-wise, right? And some of the stuff that you and Esther were saying was brilliant.
Yeah. You know what? And I'd be happy to help any of our listeners. You know, I've been approached by a lot of people that have wanted to self-publish, and I've sat down with some people and I've shared, hey, this is what I would do. Even though you're not going the traditional route, you're going to self-publish, but you still need to market your book. You need to be willing to promote it so people will read it. And people get so excited that they're just going to publish it, and they think because it's on Amazon, that everyone's going to go buy it. But the reality is it's up to the author
Yeah.
to promote it. Even with the traditional, when you go with a major publisher, it's still up to the author to promote it. So anyway, I know I hope people learned a lot from Esther, and we'll follow up and anything we can do to help.
I know that we joke around a lot all the time, and I always talk about you being the TikTok king and hanging with the cool kids on TikTok. But that's one of the reasons why, right? Is because you're obviously there's a platform there, not just for a book, but for you just sharing the gospel.
Sharing the gospel. And, I've actually had some people rib me a little bit about it. Like, man, every video is you. And I'm like, honestly, I grew TikTok because a lot of people that don't go to church, they come and they receive hope and help in Jesus. And I get to pray with people, and God's used the platform to minister. You never know who's never know who's watching.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to say who, but there's a musician that almost everybody listening would be familiar with who follows me and comments. And just
Taylor
a couple
Swift?
days ago, she wrote a song called "Shake It Off." There might be a restraining order on. I don't know, but no. But there's somebody, and you don't know who's watching. And again, like Esther was saying, you have to be willing to build a platform. And it sounds self-serving, but honestly, it's not. If I'm just, every video is look at me, look at this, and every single post is about my book. I'm just praying with people, trying to help people I'm trying to shepherd people through social media, and God has opened up some doors to be able to do that, to seriously pray with some people. And if you want to write a book, you do have to get it out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There is work involved as well. God's still going to use it, and he's going to set up divine appointments. He's always going to do his part, but we have to be willing to do ours.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Man, good stuff. I guess we better get on with the next bit.
All right.
Here we go.
It's a great way to wrap up the podcast.
Okay, so I had to check this word with you before I used it because I could. It's so bad. I've used so many, right? These English words.
Well, for those who are joining us for the first time, this is a segment that we do every podcast called Tate and His Mate, where I, Tate, have to guess a British slang word or a rhyming Cockney slang.
Yeah, see, you're getting it.
I'm catching on because you're from the UK originally.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of words that are unfamiliar with Americans. So it's a fun bit where I get to guess a word, the meaning of a word.
Yeah. So today I have a word. I think I'm going to put it into context.
Okay.
And I think because of your actions, I'm going to have to get a solicitor.
Because of your actions, you're going to have to get a solicitor. Well, normally I would say solicitor is somebody who is going to knock on my door and try to sell me something.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, that's why you drive into certain neighborhoods, including the one that I live in. There's a sign posted that says no soliciting.
Right.
So people don't want solicitors showing up at the door. We don't like getting those telemarketer phone calls.
Sure.
So in context, you just said I might have to take action and get a solicitor. Is that like I'm going to have to hire an attorney?
Well, that's two in a one.
I
week.
got it.
Oh, you got it, man.
No way.
A solicitor is the attorney.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
well, I have it right here on Google, but no, I'm joking.
Yeah. Yeah, every week you could be looking every word. What was that again, Andy? Let me check.
It's not too often that I've got two in a row.
I know.
So
I need to get them a little
on
bit
a roll.
harder.
It's going to be a good summer.
Oh man. It is going to be a good summer. We have got some great interviews lined up. I'm going to throw this out to you. I haven't even talked to you about this.
Uh-oh.
What if we did something like 1, maybe 2 live recordings again
I like that idea.
in the summer?
Yep, let's do it.
And the whole show.
We'll invite people to come participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And
We have 9. Do you know we have 9 forthcoming interviews in our books of people coming? Wow, it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. Yep. So make sure that you are staying connected with us. If you're in the Peoria area and you want to come and see my beautiful face and Chuck, then
Chuck's face for radio.
Right. He's the one behind the curtain. Then we'll let you guys know about that. But it's going to be fun, and obviously, if you're listening or watching, you'll be able to see them. But to be in a live audience last week was amazing.
Yeah, if you missed it, go watch it.
Yeah,
it's worth watching.
And I mean, it's better than Jimmy Fallon or any of those shows. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely worth going and seeing it. So, we'll keep you all posted. The best way for us to keep you posted is social media. At Revival Town Podcast is where we hang, and also our website has this. If you're listening to this audibly, you'll be able to go onto our website and watch it as well. So make sure you're doing that. And Chuck, it's always good. I will see you next week.
Can't wait
for Revival Town Podcast. And thank you for listening. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Revival Town Podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media and remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, head on over to revivaltownpodcast.com.